Welcome again for this lecture. This is lecture number 8. Today also we will see one example of knuckle joint, and this will be say last lecture on knuckle joint. So in between, during the discussion, if anybody has got some problem for this lecture or even for earlier lectures, please interrupt me. We will solve your query. Am I audible? Somebody can reply, please.
Yes, yes, sir.
And the screen is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today again we'll see an example of knuckle joint, and any problem if you face any time during this discussion, please interrupt me. Today our problem is knuckle joint is to be designed. So statement of problem is knuckle joint is completely made of plain carbon steel 40C8. 40C8 means 0.4% carbon and 0.8% manganese. This sometimes is asked in oral examination, and you also should know this. 40C8. SYT is given as 380 Newton per mm square, subjected to an axial pull, means tension. Axial pull means tension of 80 kilonewton. Design the joint, knuckle joint, with a factor of safety as 4. Here, important statement is given. Assume the compressive strength of the material to be 20% more than tensile strength. This is something which was not done in the earlier numerical. In earlier numerical, in fact, we assume the compressive strength equal to tensile strength, since separately compressive strength was not given. But here it is mentioned explicitly that compressive strength is 20% more than the tensile strength. So that we have to take care of. To start with, given data SYT 380 Newton per mm square of all the parts, because only one material is given, it means that all parts are made of same material. So P, that is 80 kilonewton, factor of safety is 4. SYC, that is yield strength in tension now, because compressive strength is given, equal to 20% more. 20% more means 1.2 times SYT. This you have to understand. And therefore, very first step will be to find the permissible stresses. Permissible stresses will be given by this sigma T permissible. You can, suffix is not mentioned here, but you can just assume that here I am writing, say, permissible, okay, for all the cases. So sigma T permissible is 380 by 4, that is 4 is factor of safety. So it becomes initially SYT by factor of safety, 90 Newton per mm square. Sigma C, that is permissible compressive stress, is 20% more. So 1.2 times 380, that is 1.2 times SYT divided by 4, it becomes 114 Newton per mm square. And permissible shear strength, as I again say that all these there should be a suffix permissible. This is permissible shear strength is 50% of SYT. 50% of SYT. If separately shear strength is not given, we always assume the permissible shear stress equal to 50% of SYT divided by factor of safety. In fact, if you say what this is nothing but a SYS, that is yield strength in shear, because permissible shear stress will be equal to yield strength in shear divided by 4, and yield strength in shear is nothing but 50% of SYT. So accordingly, it comes 47.5 Newton per mm square. Okay. So sigma T, sigma C, and tau V permissible values we already found out. Then the step number 2 actually, to find the diameter of rod. Once we find out the permissible stresses, the actual beginning of knuckle joint design, in that step one is to first find out diameter of this. If you just see this figure, we'll first find out this diameter, then we'll find out this diameter, then we'll find out this B, then we'll find out this DO, no, D, etc. This way. So first is to find diameter of rod. How to find? You can consider its tensile failure, because this is always subject when in the assembled position, the assembled position figure. In assembled position, this is subjected to some force P, and same thing here also in assembled position. The other part, say fork, and the corresponding rod is subjected to the axial pull. So considering the tensile failure, the moment I say consider tensile failure, I can write the equation what? I can write equation sigma T is equal to force divided by cross-section area. And cross-section area is pi by 4 D square, where D is diameter of this rod. This is D, I mean. Okay. And then what we do? Since D is unknown, P is known, sigma T is to be equated to permissible. And permissible we know, just now we found out the permissible. So therefore, sigma T is equal to 95 Newton per meter square. This was given in earlier slide actually. Equal to, you also take care of the units consistency. This is in Newton per mm square. This is in Newton per mm square. This is in Newton, I mean entire thing in Newton. So that's why D must be in mm then. So accordingly, D comes out to be 32.75 mm. You can convert this into a whole number. Not necessarily 35 mm. You can even stop somewhere D is equal to 33 mm. There is no problem. Okay, you can consider this as 33 mm and go ahead. Absolutely no problem. I have taken 35 mm. I wanted it to be a multiple of 5, since this is a very important part, the first part, a larger part, say. If it is a very smaller part, suppose there are some smaller parts, I may not round up those smaller part dimensions into some multiple of 5. But since it's a very bigger part, I can convert this into 35. But again, as I said, this is not mandatory. You can convert this into a whole number, right? Next whole number. Let it be even or odd, whatever. That is not a problem. But I will continue with this 35 mm diameter. Am I audible correctly?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Next, step 2 will be then, this is over now. Step 2 is to find out this diameter. You consider this as a diameter, though it is given as square cross section. You can consider it diameter. Once you find diameter, then you can just draw a tangent line to this, it becomes a square. So, next will be then to find out the diameter. This is say D1, and D1 is obtained as 10% addition of D. So it becomes 1.1 D. So 1.1 times 35, it becomes 38.5. Again, 38.5 you can make it 39 or you can make it 40. It's not very mandatory to convert into 40. If you are not happy with this rounding of things, you can comfortably take it 39, at least 39, if not 40. This is the second step. So therefore, 2 steps are over now. Next is then, if you just see the sequence, I am going this sequence, this is found, and then now this B and these A are to be found out. A and B are obtained by proportions in terms of diameter of the rod itself. So A, it means it's a width of fork. This is also A. Is 75% of D, 0.75 of D. It becomes 26.25. I have taken it round up to 28. Then B, this one, B is 1.25 times D. I told you yesterday also how to remember this. You can think of complete or say 1D, and then this, even 1D, you can think one member, say A dimension is 75% less. it becomes 0.75 D. And other member or other dimension is 25% more, so 1.25 times D. This way you can remember. Accordingly, you get this 45 mm value. So this is all over. Next will be then what? If I go in sequence, I should get now this DO, D, etc. So I'll go first D. Now this diameter, small diameter D, is nothing but actually a pin diameter, because pin is going to get inserted in this hole. That's why D is nothing but pin diameter. And we know there are two criteria of pin diameter, finding out the pin diameter. There are two criteria. That is, if you see here, one is shear failure and other is the bending failure. These two criteria are there to find out the pin diameter. So we'll first consider the shear failure, shear criteria. As per the shear criteria, what equation you should write? You should write equation tau is equal to, you should write equation tau is equal to force divided by area. Which area? Area under failure. Which area it means? This area and this area. One area is equal to pi by 4 D square, where D is the diameter of this pin, this one. This into 2 times, because 2 times the area. And this way equate to permissible, because this is unknown. Permissible is already, we have already found out in the previous slides. So accordingly, you can see permissible is also mentioned here, 47.5, this one. And therefore, putting the all relevant values in the proper units consistency must be seen again, as I told you. This is in Newton per mm square. This is entire is in Newton, because it was in kilonewton and converted into Newton, and that's why D will be in mm. So accordingly, D is 32.74. Oh, okay, you can make it to 33, 34, no problem. But this is a smaller component, so I will not go to rounding off to a very next values, like 30 or multiple of 5, etc. You can make it to 33. But as I said that if you are not happy with this type of variations in the rounding off methods, you can always think that if you get some fraction, you can take a next number. That is not a problem. You can take it. So that was the tensile shear failure earlier. Shear failure, and this 33 mm signifies what? This dimension signifies that if you take this dimension of the pin, it will not fail under shear. Why it will not fail? Because induced stress will be equal to permissible stress, and that's why it will not fail. This is the meaning of this 33 mm diameter. And next, also we know that the bending failure is also there, because the pin also can bend inside the in the assembly. That's why in bending consideration, if we I actually in previous 1 or 2 lectures I tried to derive this, and so that's why we will not again derive here equation. But to find out this bending failure, if I know bending failure, the moment you say bending failure, you can write equation is this way: sigma B is equal to m upon I into y, this way, where y is d by 2, I is equal to pi by 64 d to the power 4, and m is a maximum bending moment that you have to calculate in terms of these notations or distances, and that bending moment maximum will be at the center of these loadings. But this derivation actually we discussed 2-3 times, so we will not again repeat it. Accordingly, then sigma B is equal to something, so this something will consist of term D, and that's why D will be equal to that something. It will consist of term D cube. It will be a D cube somewhere. That's why D is equal to third root of this entire. So here D is equal to then 32 upon pi sigma B. Now, no need to say, you must now understand by this time that this sigma B, if suppose D is unknown, D you want to find out, the sigma B must be the permissible stress. Now, if you see the permissible stress values, we found out the permissible stress values for sigma T. We have the permissible value of sigma C and tau. But there is no sigma B anywhere, because sigma B is not anything different than the sigma T and sigma C. And therefore, sigma B is equal to sigma T and sigma C. And therefore, if you have got two values of sigma T and sigma C, you take the smaller value and equal this to sigma b. Since the smaller value of sigma t and sigma c is actually 90, because this was sigma t earlier, this was sigma t, and later on we equal it to sigma b, right? So minimum of these two values is nothing but permissible value of bending stress, because the bending is nothing but a combination of tension and compression only. So minimum of these two will get, that becomes 90. So it means that the sigma b permissible is nothing but 90 Newton per mm square. And everything else is known. This is B, A, that is B. B is nothing but this much distance, which is equal to the width of the single eye, and A is this much distance, which is nothing but the width of the double eye. This is also A. This is A, this is A, and this is B. Accordingly, we can find out the value of D then. So by putting the all relevant values in proper units, D is equal to 45.34 mm, which is equal to, I have taken 46 mm. Just remember, in the previous slide, the B by considering its failure under shear was 33 mm, and now by considering its failure under bending, 46 mm. So therefore, naturally, we'll go ahead with this value because it is sufficient. It will be required to withstand the bending failure as well as to shear failure. That's why we'll go ahead with this dimension of diameter of pin now. Then, so if you now see, I have purposefully divided the failure into two parts. If you see these three equations or these three failures are required to find out the dimensions of the various dimensions of the knuckle joint or knuckle parts. Whereas this extra set, this set of dimensions or failures are not required further to find out the dimensions, because dimensions already are found out. Just note what I'm saying. This is found out. This diameter is also found out. This B is found out, right? Only one thing is remaining that we will be. Okay, this diameter is also found out. This diameter. Which one? Diameter of pin, because pin is going to get inserted inside this. Pin diameter is found out. This outside diameter is a function of this pin diameter because it is always equal to 2 times diameter of pin. So this is also find out. We can find out this. This is equal to 1.5D, so this also is found out. A is found out, this is found out, this is again found out, D1 is found out. If you see now, all important dimensions are already obtained. This is not a part of the calculation, this much length, or even this much length. You can take any length of this length. Even this length is not required to calculate. You can take any length. Even this length is not required to calculate because you can take any length. So therefore, these three sets of failure equations are required to find out dimensions, and this will help you to, when you solve the problem, this will help you. These three failures are required to find out the dimensions, and these remaining failures of the knuckle joint are required to cross-check. Cross-check means you will find out the stresses and you will compare that stress with the permissible one. If the permissible stress is more than the induced stress, then your selection or calculation so far is correct, it means. Okay, so moving ahead then. Dimensions of DO, outer diameter, and P. Actually, I had already told you, this DO, outer diameter of I, will be equal to 2 times diameter of P, and the pin collar diameter, this one will be equal to 1.5 times diameter of P. Okay, so this is already found out. So 92 mm and 72 mm respectively, by taking outside diameter equal to 2 times diameter of the pin, and diameter of collar of the pin is equal to 1.5 times diameter of the pin. Accordingly, we get some values 92 and 70 mm respectively. And here then the all dimensions calculations that work is over. That's why you can see now this is over, this is over, this is over, this is over, this is over. All dimensions are over now. Okay, and as I told you that this is not a part of the calculation because we can take this any length. This will be obviously equal to A. Okay, this will be obviously equal to this thing. and this is equal to this diameter. Okay. Whatever the diameter of this you get, same side of this you can have. So all dimensions are now over. Remaining is now only cross checks. Before I can give you first the link because I forget at the end. Whether the link works or not, you please interrupt me if it is not working. Okay. So now, next is then crushing failure, because this was, I told you that this is, all these failures will be required now to cross check. Okay. So checking the crushing stress. Since I am considering the crushing failure, I must check the crushing stress. That's why step 7 is written as check crushing stress in pin. Check crushing failure of pin. It means check crushing stress in pin. But pin is in single eye as well as in double eye. That's why first part is check crushing stress in pin when it is in single eye. Eye means single eye. So when this is pressed against this, when you press insert this against this surface of the eyes will be in contact with this convex surface of this. So therefore, sigma c, that is crushing stress, will be equal to force upon area. Which area now? Remember, this area is, as we discussed earlier, this area is area under projection. So if this part is in contact with this one, B length of contact will be B. B length will be in contact. So B length of this will be in contact. So therefore, the projected view of this will be equal to rectangle, because if you see from this end, you will see one rectangle of length B and this height D, because it's a D. So D by B becomes the area under projection. Accordingly, I have written the B into D because it was already mentioned. This was B. We already found out B. Already found out. Putting this equation here, 38.64, we get answer. Now we said that checking the crushing stress. Checking means that whatever induced stress you got, that should be checked against permissible, and that's why it should be less than permissible. Permissible is given by sigma c. Sigma c is mentioned here also at the bottom. This one, permissible, and that's why 38.64 is less than 114. That is permissible crushing or compressive stress, and that's why the selection or calculation so far is correct. See, at this point, I want you to make aware of another change one can have in the problem. You can have a problem in which the permissible stress, see I am writing now, permissible compressive stress of pin and permissible compressive stress of I. These two can be different values. Mind well, these two can be different values. Here, since the material of all components are same, that's why these are same. But in rare cases, these two values can be different. If these two values are different, then crushing of that component will take place first, which is weaker. Weaker in the sense whose value, the permissible value is less. Are you getting this? So whose permissible value is less. And therefore, if we get this case, when the two materials are different in contact and their values of strength or corresponding permissible stresses are different, you equate this value to that value, or not equate, you will compare this value to that value, which will be lower value out of these two. I hope I am making the things clear. Here, since 114 is the permissible stress for permissible compressive stress for pin material as well as for I material. That's why this is 114. But if suppose a case is there that pin material is something different, let us say it is having some 100 Newton per mm square permissible value, then this would be equal to 100, not 114. Even though this is 114, this will be still compared to smaller value, because that will rupture first. That is the thing which you want to remember. So this is crushing failure. Next will be the crushing failure of pin in fork. So crushing failure of pin in fork, again what we do? We'll again write the equation crushing stress. Check crushing stress in pin when in fork. See the next slide. Same thing. Crushing stress, and I want to ensure this one. I want to deal with this. Crushing failure. Crushing failure means that I'm expecting that there will be a crushing stress. If there is a crushing stress in pin, then in fork. When it is in fork, just contact area or contact length is replaced from B to 2A. That is the only thing happens when it is in fork. And therefore, P upon 2A, instead of BD, becomes 2AD. So again, it's A, B and D are known. We'll put the respective values here with the answer, and of course now, this is what? Induced compressive stress in the material. Which material? Both material here in this case, because both are same material. And it should be less than what? It should be less than permissible compressive stress. It is 114 again. So it should be less than 114. That is, if it is less, your selection so far, selection means your diameter, this dimension, this is correct so far. So this is over now. Next is tensile failure of I. It means what should be the next step? Next step would be check tensile stress in I. Check tensile stress in I. Just see now. Check tensile stress in I. This is the tensile failure. These are separation of the layer, separation of the surface plane. That's why it's a tensile failure. So if it is a tensile failure, what will be equation? Equation will be equal to sigma t is equal to some 4 divided by cross section area. Which cross section area? This cross section area, this and this. And what is this area? This area is equal to dO minus d into this length, and this length is equal to b. Therefore, it is equal to b into this dO minus d. Again, putting the respective values, we get 38.64. What we are doing here? We are checking the tensile stress. Checking means this must be compared. It should be less than permissible. Permissible is what? We are talking about sigma t. The permissible is sigma t permissible. It is equal to 90. That's why this must be less than 90. If it is less than 90, then your selection so far is correct. You should go ahead with the design procedure now. So what we did so far then? Tensile failure of I also considered. Next will be shear failure of I. Shear failure of I. So what would be the step? Step number 10 would be now check the shear stress in I. Check the shear stress in I. And that's it here. Check the shear stress in single I. Again, you have to, this failure, no, this figure should be in front of your eye when you talk about the shear stress in single I. Unless you can bring this figure, this failure figures in front of your eye, then you cannot write the equation. Immediately, this figure should be in front of your eye, that this is a shear stress, shear failure of the single eye. And what is the area? Area will be this rectangle. This dimension of rectangle, another dimension is this one. This rectangle. This rectangle. Single rectangle is but at the bottom side also. That's why 2 times. And what is the dimension of this rectangle or area of rectangle? Approximately the area is equal to this length into this length. And this length is equal to B. Remaining is of only this length. But this length cannot be found out correctly, and that is why there is a approximation. approximation is that if we see the same figure from this direction, what you see, if I suppose think of this plane will be equal to DO, entire is DO, minus this D, DO minus D means these two dimensions. Okay, divided by 2, it means this radial component, radial part, this much. Same as this one. So this is equal to DO minus D divided by 2. But it is into 2, that's why 2 will get cancelled. This is 2 will get cancelled. That's why remaining is again same thing. Just take this equation is very similar to equation which we have seen earlier. Okay, this one. Tensile stress in single line and shear stress in single line. Both are same. Both are same. But that is a coincidence. That is a coincidence that both equations are same. So you get by putting the appropriate values, you get the answer as 38.64. What should be next step? Since you are checking the shear stress and you got the induced shear stress now, this should be compared and this should be less than permissible. Permissible of what? Permissible shear stress, which is given by this. It was 47.5. And that's why this should be less than 47.5, and it is yes, it is less than 47.5. That's why stress is within limit. It means it will not fail because you check the shear stress, you anticipated the failure, shear failure you anticipated. You found out that shear stress induced is not more than permissible. It means it will not fail under shear. This is the meaning. Okay. Next step will be what? Next failure is tensile failure of fork. If it is tensile failure of fork, what I should write the step 11? I should write step 11 as check the tensile stress in fork. Check tensile failure in fork or tensile stress in fork. This way. Tensile stress in fork. So, this figure is a tensile failure of single eye. If same figure is to be converted into tensile failure of fork, the replacement is only of what? D. D will be replaced by 2A, and that becomes a tensile failure of fork. That's why same thing again. D was replaced by 2A. So P upon area. Area is what? This area is DO minus D into B. So instead of into B, I will say into 2A. Into 2A. That becomes the area. So this is actually what again? This is nothing but a induced stress. This is now induced stress. Why induced? Because I already found out diameters and I put the diameter values here. That's why this is the stress value experienced by the material. Because I know dimensions. But what answer I get here, that answer must be that this is now induced stress must be less than permissible. Permissible is what? Permissible sigma T permissible. Sigma T permissible means this one. 90 Newton per meter square. That's why this is 90 less than 90 Newton per meter square. It means we are okay with the dimensions. This means that it will not fail. There will not be a tensile failure of fork because induced tensile stress in the fork is smaller than the permissible value of stress. That is why it will not fail. The fork will not fail under tensile stress. So this is also over. And last is then shear failure of fork. Shear failure of fork. What will be the step? Check the shear stress in the fork. Check the shear stress in the fork. This figure actually is a shear failure of single eye. If you want to convert this into a shear failure of fork, what you do? Replace the D by 2A. That's it. Therefore, this replacement of D by 2A will be the figure. Again, 2 will get cancelled. Remaining is DO minus D into 2A. That becomes our area under failure. Same thing is written here. So if you follow this approach, I don't know. Sometimes the textbooks is written in the direction of what authors think. Okay, it happens. In knuckle joint specifically, if you go by the way I am explaining, it will be very easy for you to solve all sort of problems. Just remember these steps only. Okay, And to help you to remember, you can divide this all the failure types into two parts. One part of these three failures required to find dimensions, and other part of this required to cross-check the stresses induced in the components, whether they are within the limits or not. So therefore, last step is check the shear stress in the fork, and as I told you that replacement of B to B by 2A, so P upon this thing 2A into d minus d, putting the all appropriate values, we get 31.05. This should be less than permissible. This should be less than permissible value. And permissible is this one, 47.5 Newton per meter square, and it is less than permissible. That is why this will also not. It means with this dimension, meaning again what? With this set of dimensions and the loading, the fork will not fail under shear. The fork, it means it will not fail this way. This is anticipation, but it will not fail. Okay, so this is the entire, say, approach to solve the problem of the knuckle joint. Right now, it is very clear. Please try to understand. Whatever I talk here, 90% of the students will understand. Yes, this is going on. I understand correctly. But when it comes to solution, when it comes to actual solution by yourself, when you try your problem, then you find some problem, and then you can come back to me and solve and get your query solved. That also, you are always welcome. You can come back anytime. Okay. Come means no, there is lockdown, so physically we cannot meet, but then you can always contact me through WhatsApp, or by any social media actually. But basically, call and WhatsApp, those are preferable. Now, if I now open my textbook, if you have a textbook, if you open the textbooks of the textbook and you try to find the numericals in knuckle joint, you should be in a position to solve all problems with the background, with the knowledge which I have given so far. If you can solve, then my teaching is correct and your acceptance is correct. Now, if you see the variations, because you will not get all problems similar, the similar nature, what I have explained now, you will not get all problems similar. But if I go through some yesterday I have gone through some 4 or 5 problems, and I got to know that there are some variations. What these variations are, and then how you can tackle these variations. Example number 2, similar problem. Similar means earlier problem, except what? Allowable shear stress is given as 0.587 of allowable stress of material. So what does this mean? I write here, example 2. Allowable shear stress is 0.87 of the allowable stress of the material. Actually, something is here missing. Allowable stress in material in tension. Very precisely, I should write in tension. It means that allowable means permissible. No? Permissible shear stress means allowable shear stress is equal to 0.587 of 0.578 of allowable stress in tension. This relation you have to follow. If this relation is not given, what we do? If this is not given, we find out permissible stress is equal to 0.5 times SYT by factor of safety. This is our usual equation. When we use this equation, when there is no explicit mention of permissible value of shear stress, we use this equation. But since now this is given, tau permissible is equal to actually 0.587 of SYT by factor of safety, because this actually is sigma t permissible. Are you following this? In fact, let me tell you at this point only that when we write down the equation this way, that permissible shear stress is 50% of permissible tensile stress. This relation is obtained by using one theory that theory is called as a maximum shear stress theory. But if you use relation, this one, permissible shear stress equal to 0.587 of permissible stress in tension, this theory is called as a maximum distortion energy theory. Maximum distortion energy theory. So these two theories are different. That is why if it is mentioned that allowable shear stress is 0.587, or else if it is mentioned that the use maximum distortion energy theory, it means that you want to use this relation. That is, or this relation. These two relations say the same. Huh? That is, permissible shear stress is equal to not 50%, but sorry, this is equal to same, this one. Permissible shear stress is not equal to 50% of SYT, but it is equal to 0.587 of SYT by that perspective. So I hope I made it clear. If you have any problem, you can put this in chat box, or you can WhatsApp me message. If you can understand this, I can again repeat this. Next is another problem. There can be a similar problem, except ultimate tensile strength of material is given. See, ultimate tensile strength against tearing. Actually, tearing means tension, huh? Because tearing happens when in tension. That's why tearing and tension is same. So, ultimate tensile strength of material is against tearing is 420 Newton per mm square, while against shear is 396 Newton per mm square. See, two data are different. If these two data are different, what you do? I will actually erase this. Somebody please remind me if it is 12 o'clock. Huh? Okay. So, ultimate tensile strength is given, shear strength is also given. It means what? You use these two values. Ultimate tensile strength you will use to find out the permissible tensile strength, that will be equal to 420 divided by factor of safety, whatever is given. And since shear strength is different given, separately given, in this case, permissible stress is not now equal to 50% of SYT. Mind well. Now, permissible shear stress is not equal to 50% of SYT or 50.587 of SYT. No. Why? Because separately shear strength is also given. That is why here now permissible shear strength will be equal to 396 divided by factor of safety, because separate strength of shear is given. So this way you can take care of this problem. Number 4, similar problem, except ultimate tensile strength is given 480 and yield strength is also given 360. See, SUT is also given, SYT is also given. If these two are given, this is meaningless for us, because all materials are ductile materials in the knuckle joint. That's why for our ductile materials, the failure criteria is SYT, not SUT. You cannot load the component up to SUT in ductile material, and you load the component up to SYT only. That's why this actually becomes meaningless. This is given to confuse you. This is not useful, because yield strength is sufficient. All your permissible stresses can be found by considering the yield strength only. Okay, so this is how the variation you can have in the numerical in knuckle joint. Sometimes only pin design is asked, but that cannot be a variation, because only a small part is asked. It's the full length problem of knuckle joint design. Only a small part is asked. That is only design the pin, or only design the single eye, or only design double eye, or only find out the stresses, etc. Okay, this can be another variations. But if you can now accommodate all these variations, if you are comfortable now all these variations, absolutely there will not be any problem in the knuckle joint design. Actually, I have given sufficient time for knuckle joint because I wanted you to understand instead of going ahead. No, instead of moving ahead fast, I want you to understand first things because initially, it will take some time to accept to digest the principles of design, right? And then once you become comfortable with all the terminologies and all these approaches, permissible stresses, allowable stresses, induced stresses, factor safety, etc. If you become comfortable with this all total approaches, then remaining things are very easy. Very easy. If you can, believe me, if you now are comfortable with this knuckle joint, if you can solve one or two problems, okay, then everything else is very easy. Okay, this is a basic fundamental. That's why I have given much time of this. So I have given the link to you, right? It's almost 11:50. 10 minutes are there, but then I will not start the new topic. Topics are there. Already you can see the topics are there already available, but we will not go ahead. Instead, I would like to get some difficulty, if any, from your side, so that if you missed something earlier, if you could not understand something, let it be a part of this presentation or of earlier presentations. You can ask me the questions. Okay? So I stop sharing here. You can ask me some questions. That will be better for me.